A couple adopts a child who refuses to speak, but soon discovers a terrifying secret. Rachel and Mark had always dreamed of expanding their family, but after years of struggling with infertility, they turned to adoption. When they met Emily, a quiet, dark-haired child with deep brown eyes, they were immediately smitten. She was 3 years old, and though she appeared to be well-fed and in good health, something about her was different. She never made a sound. No cries, no giggles, not even a whisper. Rachel found herself constantly looking at the little girl, wondering what could cause such silence in a child so young. Mark, though, was more practical. Some kids are just like that, he said, trying to reassure her. But no matter how hard Rachel tried to get Emily to speak, her lips remained sealed. It was as though the child had no words at all. Though Emily never spoke, her behavior was impeccable. She ate all her meals without fuss, went to bed without argument, and played quietly by herself in her room. Rachel marveled at how well behaved the child was. It was as if Emily had been trained to avoid trouble altogether. Yet there were moments, fleeting, unexplainable moments, when Rachel felt like she was being watched, like Emily's eyes saw something far beyond what any normal child could. She'd catch the little girl staring into the corners of rooms or peering into the darkness as if waiting for something to appear. Whenever Rachel asked her what she was looking at, Emily would just smile and turn away. But there was always a shadow behind her eye, a shadow that seemed to hide something that even she herself didn't fully understand. It started with small things, lights flickering on and off, objects shifting on shelves when no one was around. Mark dismissed it as the house settling, but Rachel couldn't shake the growing unease that crept over her every time she noticed something amiss. The lights would flicker more frequently when Emily was nearby, and on occasion, doors would creak open, though no one had touched them. One evening, as Rachel was cleaning up after dinner, a picture frame fell from the wall, but when she picked it up, the photo inside had been replaced with a black and white image of Emily. The little girl was staring at the camera, but there was a strange, unblinking intensity in her gaze that Rachel hadn't seen before. She tried to show the picture to Mark, but when he looked at it, the photo returned to its original state, with their family in it. It was late one night when Emily, sitting on the couch, turned to Rachel with a soft, almost eerie smile. "Mommy," she said, her voice barely audible, "you're afraid of the dark because of what happened in the attic, aren't you?" Rachel froze, her heart pounding in her chest. She had never spoken about the attic to anyone, not even Mark. It was a place she had avoided since childhood, a place tied to painful memories she had tried to forget. But Emily knew. The little girl knew everything about Rachel's childhood fear. Mark laughed nervously, brushing it off as coincidence, but Rachel couldn't ignore the cold chill that ran down her spine. Emily wasn't just a quiet child. She was a child who knew things no one had told her. The mystery deepened when Rachel decided to investigate Emily's past, feeling compelled to know more about the little girl she had welcomed into her life. She contacted the adoption agency and was shocked by the details that emerged. Emily's previous adoptive parents had died in a fire that consumed their house in the dead of night. The fire was ruled an accident, but strange inconsistencies lingered. Emily's adoptive mother had reportedly heard whispers before the fire began. The police found no traces of accelerants, but the fire had started at the exact moment the whispers reached their peak. The most unsettling part? Emily had been found standing at the window of her room, gazing out into the night, completely untouched by the flame. Rachel's blood ran cold. Could Emily have been involved in her former family's death, or was something much darker at play? Days after Rachel discovered the tragic history of Emily's past, the little girl began drawing pictures. At first, they were innocent, pictures of trees, flowers, and animals. But soon, they became darker. Emily drew scenes of the house on fire, her parents' bodies lying in the ruins. But it didn't end there. She drew Rachel and Mark trapped inside the house, surrounded by flames. There was one drawing in particular that Rachel couldn't shake. It was an image of herself, standing in the living room, with Emily standing just behind her, smiling. But behind Emily, there was a shadow, a figure that seemed to reach out from the darkness. Rachel couldn't understand how Emily could know these things. She tried to show Mark the drawings, but when he saw them, the pictures would change, becoming blurred and unreadable. Mark, ever the skeptic, started to question his beliefs as the strange occurrences continued to escalate. Rachel, though, had already begun to suspect something far more sinister. Emily's silence, the drawings, the inexplicable events, it all pointed to one terrifying possibility. responsibility. The child was not simply a quiet, troubled soul. She was connected to something supernatural, something older than the house itself. Desperation led Rachel to seek out a paranormal expert, a woman named Clara who specialized in entities that haunted children. After Clara examined Emily, she confirmed Rachel's worst fear. "The child is a vessel," Clara said, her voice trembling. "There's an ancient spirit inside her. It's been feeding on the family's fear, growing stronger with every passing year." Rachel's mind raced. What had they brought into their home? It started one night when Rachel was alone in the house. She heard it clearly at first, a faint whisper coming from Emily's room. It was soft, almost like a breath, but as Rachel approached the door, it grew louder. Words she couldn't quite understand drifted out of the room, twisted syllables that sent a chill through her veins. Emily remained silent, her small form lying motionless on the bed. Rachel opened the door, but there was no one else in the room. The whispers continued, as though the very walls of the house were speaking to her. Emily's eyes opened suddenly, locking onto Rachel. "It's not me," she whispered. "It never was." Rachel's blood ran cold. Was the child speaking, or was it something else entirely? The truth came crashing down one stormy night. Clara returned, bringing with her an ancient book of rituals and incantations. As she recited the words, Emily's eyes rolled back in her head, and her body began to convulse. The voice that came from her was not her own. It was deep, guttural, and full of malice. "You cannot save her," it growled. "She is mine." Clara's face went pale. "This is no ordinary possession," she whispered. "This is an ancient spirit bound by a curse that has been passed through generations. The child is the key." As the spirit raged inside Emily, the house began to tremble, the walls cracking as if they were trying to break free from the evil within. Rachel and Mark were faced with a choice that no parent should ever have to make: save the child they love, or banish the spirit that had taken root in her. The ritual to rid Emily of the spirit was dangerous, and failure would mean the child's soul would be lost forever. But Rachel couldn't bear the thought of living without Emily, even if she was no longer truly Emily. The couple decided to fight for her. As Clara performed the final incantation, Emily's body arched in pain, and the house shook violently. But with a final, deafening scream, the spirit was expelled, leaving Emily unconscious on the floor. When she woke, she was herself again, but the darkness remained. Rachel and Mark held her close, knowing that though they had saved her from the spirit, the trauma would never leave them. If you enjoyed this terrifying story of possession, adoption, and a chilling supernatural force, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon to stay updated on more spine-tingling stories like The Silent Child. What do you think? Is Emily's story truly over, or has the spirit found a new vessel? Let me know in the comments below.